Welcome to the Heavy Spoilers Show. I'm your host Paul, aka the guy who's a pain in the neck like a vampire, and this video we're breaking down Fear Street Part 3. Up top, I just want to apologise for missing Part 2 last week. I had a bit of a bad spell over the weekend and just wanted to rest up, so I took some time off, but we basically watched the highly talked about massacre at Camp Nightwing playing out in all its glory. It was clearly based upon the 70s slasher Friday the 13th, and it set up Sarah Fiers as the most wicked witch of the West, or rather shady side. We followed the sole survivor Christine and her sister Cindy as they chronicled what really happened there. However, 1666 reveals the truth, and it takes us on an even further time jump as we go back to the year in question to see things through the eyes of Sarah. Whereas the first film was based on the slashers of the 90s, and the last one the ones of the 70s, 1666 is giving a lot of nods to films like Dead Birds, The Village, and of course the seminal horror The Witch. This new setting really worked for me, and I think that out of the trilogy that this was by far the strongest. They also bring several of the previous cast members to play the God-fearing villagers, who are of course the ancestors of those that have been getting murdered. Now, whilst we initially believed that we were simply seeing the origin story of Fears, things go far beyond that, and we learn not only of the settlement, the Union, but also who is behind everything. Sarah falls in love with one of the other villagers named Hannah, and the pair have to live in secret because of the prejudices at the time. Dina of course relates to the character quite a lot, and we see much in the same way that her friends were blamed for carrying out the murders that Sarah eventually is too. Sarah's father wants her to marry a man named Solomon Good, who is the ancestor of Nick, a man we met in 78 that would grow up to become the sheriff of the town. We later learn exactly why he didn't tell the truth about what happened at the camp, and though it was thought that it was simply because he wanted to be sheriff, it was all part of his power play. Now unfortunately, Sarah and Hannah's secret gets out, and when a pastor known as Cyrus Miller becomes a murderer that's seemingly possessed, suspicion turns on the pair. The latter is caught, and Sarah goes to Solomon for help, which is where we discover that it was he who was behind the entire thing. Turns out that in their lust for power, the Goods have been evil this entire time, and you can't get mad at me for that pun, as it's a line in the actual movie. Anyway, I thought I'd explain the curse in general before we get into the rest of the film, and this thing that has plagued the entire town started all the way back in 1666, with a widowed Solomon suffering from depression after losing his wife and child. Realizing that life wasn't all that it was promised to be, he made a deal with the devil in order to improve his circumstances, and in exchange for offering up one of the townsfolk to Lucifer, he was given wealth and prosperity. The Goods have passed down this knowledge throughout the years, and over the centuries, they've offered up people from Shadyside in order to improve not only their lives, but Sunnyvale as well. This idea of one town being better than the other is even hinted at in their names, as being Sunny of course is more sought after than the Shade, and the idea of a veil of course can be used to cover up the truth of what's beneath it. Now Solomon lived on the outskirts of the Union, but through doing this he's pretty much built up Sunnyvale around him, and this is why we get the reveal of the home at the end of the film, which I'll talk about later on. The name Solomon likely comes from King Solomon, and the Goods have ruled over the two towns for centuries and centuries. Now upon discovering this, Solomon cuts off Sarah's hand and brings her before the village where she is hanged. All you had to do back then was yell witch and everyone believed it, and I'm glad that these days people question what they're told, unless it's posted on Facebook by someone you went to school with who failed science. Anyway, moving on, Sarah saves Hannah by confessing that it was her, but she says that she will haunt Solomon and his family forever. Her friends bury her with a crown of moss, and this ends up becoming important in the town, as it not only appeared in the cave during 78 as a way to lead some of the survivors out, but it also helped to pass on certain visions. Though her curse wasn't as destructive as the Goods, she is right in saying that she'll lead to their downfall, and this very much plays into the ending. The curses sort of work together as one, and we learn that anytime someone discovers Sarah's curse by touching her bones, that a member of the Goods becomes aware of this, and they send their minions in to murder them before their secret is revealed. Now if you're enjoying the video so far, then I'd massively appreciate the thumbs up, so make sure you smash it over the head until it stops moving, and hit the subscribe to join my dark dominion. Anyway, we cut back to the present and part 2 of part 3. Bear with me, This is about Dina exposing the truth of what happened whilst taking Nick Good down. I love how they actually hinted towards a lot of things like this throughout the other movies, and much in the same way that Solomon showed up to kill Cyrus when he was possessed, Nick did the same thing in the first episode during the murder of Maya Hawke, Maya he, Maya who, Maya ha ha. Yeah, I know I did that joke last time, but it's a good one, yeah? Just let me have me good ones. Anyway, Dina and Josh are discovered in the woods by Nick, and they quickly deduce that he's been working with the devil once more. They steal his car, and he sends the undead killers after them. They come up with a plan, and using the last surviving members of the town, it seems, they trap the possessed killers inside the mall. They cover Nick and Dina's blood, and thus the killers go after him instead, but he grabs Christine during this. Dina cuts herself to draw them to her once more, and this leads to Nick chasing Dina through the tunnels under it. This of course mirrors the journey that Sarah went on whilst trying to escape Solomon earlier in the movie, and again, it's like poetry, they rhyme. I get sick of saying that sometimes, but sometimes I'm really proud of myself like this one. Now down here she discovers the literal scab that has been growing in the depths of the town, and here a possessed Sam catches her. However, Dina breaks through for a second and manages to free her, but she isn't out of the woods yet, or the caves. Now Nick stabs Dina, but we see that she's wearing body armor, which is made up of books written by Robert Lawrence, aka R.L. Stine, who created the Fear Street series, available in all good bookshops now. Channeling Sarah, Dina kills Nick, and thus the curse is finally lifted for the meantime, but we'll talk about that later on. Now the pair make their way through the tunnels and emerge inside Nick's amazing home, which is located at the same spot as Solomon's. Inside are several busts of goats and rams, which are typically used as a sign of Satan. There's also a picture that says courage, almost inspiring Nick to have the courage he must in order to continue the curse, as well as the family tree. We see a literal picture of the family tree that has Solomon at the roots of it, with several of the goods springing forth because of him. We can also see 2 black candles, and typically these were thought to be instruments used by wizards and witches. Outside we see the curse is clearly lifted, as immediately a car crash takes place, and we hear that all is no longer good in Sunnyvale. Nick's brother the mayor denies all knowledge, and I think that potentially he could be the person who grabs the book at the end. Clearly the goods knew of the curse as well as how to carry it out. I think that it will most likely be him. With Sunnyvale falling apart, it makes sense that someone from there would carry out the curse once more, and it becomes clear that Dina and her friends have a lot more trouble coming down the line. This actually ties into the Fear Street books themselves, which told a multitude of horror stories featuring all kinds of demons. They were basically goosebumps for teens, and there may be other potentials such as the Queen of Darkness, who we know that Josh had been talking to online. Though he knows who she is now, he could have potentially told her everything, and she might have went and done the spell, though I don't know if I'm reaching there. Anyway, everyone seemingly gets a happy ending, and out in the woods, Dina and Sam kiss after rekindling their relationship. Now, gonna hold my hands up, yeah? I have no problem with that, but where I draw the line is Burger King. The food tastes terrible, yeah? Let the dislikes come in, but I'm not having that, yeah? I put my foot down at Burger King. KFC all day, baby. I'm a soldier, and I report to the colonel. Anyway, amongst the moss and where Sarah was buried, they carved the first shady cider into her grave, and we cut to scenes of the town, including the mall, before travelling through it to see the book being picked up. Now though I've said it's probably the mayor, it may be someone other than the goods, but looking at the hands, they do look like men's, though I'm no hands expert. Yeah? Now it is a white dude though, and Good's brother has the knowledge and MO to carry out the curse, and they clearly set him up as a villain in this, so that's where I'd go for next time. Anyway, that concludes the first Fear Street trilogy. I think it went out on a really high note, other than the Burger King. Now the first 2 parts were great, but part 3 is where it really all came together for me, and you know what, in the end I had a lot of fun with it. I hope you enjoyed the video, and again, apologies for missing part 2, but hopefully this one has made it up for you, or I owe you even more videos. Anyway, I'd love to hear your comments below, and if you drop one, as a thank you, you'll be entered into a competition on the 30th of July, in which you could win an MCU box set. All you have to do to be on the chance of winning is like the video, make sure you subscribe with notifications on, and drop a comment below with your thoughts on the trilogy. We pick the comments at random at the end of the month, and the winners of the last one are on screen right now, so message me at Heavy Spoilers on Twitter if that's you. If you want something else to watch, then make sure you check out our breakdown of Loki episode 6, which will be linked on screen right now. We went over the entire episode and pointed out all the Easter eggs we could find, so it's definitely worth checking it out if you want to know more. With that out of the way, thank you for sitting through the video. I've been Paul, and I'll see you next time. Take care, peace.